Hi, this is Stephen, and I wanted to show a few tips and tricks on doing some modeling in Maya, especially when you've got some image planes set up. There's a really cool trick. If you hadn't already added these, you can go to Create and Free Image Plane, and it'll set these up where you can arrange them around your character and model from your character. There's a really cool thing when you select one. If you go to the attribute editor, you're going to see the transform node, but this image plane node will show you a few little options. And one really cool thing is when you're looking through the camera. So I've got this character oriented, so it's facing this way. So when I model looking at the front camera, I'm actually looking at the front image and not necessarily the back image, but there's a really cool trick you can do for these, and that's at the top of this option. It says looking through camera. Right now it's all views. So if I turn that to looking at camera, so I'm doing that for the one that's the front, and I choose the front camera, right? Then when I'm looking through the front camera, I'll see it, but I won't see it in the perspective view. It would be nice if you could select multiple cameras so I could see it in perspective as well as the front view, but that's okay. This is actually a really neat kind of thing. I can go to the side view, which actually should be rotated. I actually had set it to rotate actually I'll go -90, and I'll pull it. I can keep it on this side because if I pull it over here, you see it's on that side because the camera's looking that way. So I just snap it to the grid. So I hold down X and snap it that way. So when you're looking through the side camera, you'll see it. Now, if I go to that image plane shape and I go look through camera and side, you're going to see in the perspective view it's gone. So I don't have to necessarily worry about it, mainly because I use the image planes for lining up the character in one of the views rather than the perspective. I use the perspective to kind of get things to move around because you can't really line it up that way. So it's kind of nice you can do that. And since I don't have a top-down view of this character that I'm modeling it from, it really wouldn't come in that handy. I can change this orthographic, and I can go to New, and I can go to Back, and I can add a back camera. So I'm going to change this. And then what I can do is find that image plane, select it, looking through, and instead of perspective, I change it to back. So now I've got a camera here that I can model for the back of the character just to kind of line it up from the back if so needed, especially when you've got different details for the front and the back. And then I can use that to do that. So it's kind of a cool thing that I can do so that I don't see them in the perspective view, and I can just kind of model here. But if I need to line it up, I can actually, dolly out, move this camera out a little bit to see how well it's doing on the side view and make any other loops or adjustments that I need to there. So that's a kind of a cool thing that these image planes, a rather new thing in Maya is free image planes, which is kind of cool. Another cool thing you can do is in the Modeling Toolkit, there's this area down here that it's kind of hard to see sometimes, but there's a little menu down here that's a custom shelf. I'm going to pull my Modeling Toolkit out just so you can see this. I can hover this over my other windows to get more, ability out of this window. But if you pull this little separator up a little bit, you're going to see this custom shelf. If you hover over this thing long enough, eventually it'll pop up, but you can also see it down over here in the corner, in the lower left corner. It says use Control plus Shift plus middle mouse, drag and drop shelf items into this area. See, and it also says when you hover over this. So let's say I wanted this shelf button item over here. I can hold down Control, Shift, and middle mouse. Right now I'm on a Mac, and usually the control works in Maya if I hold down Control substituted for Command on a Mac. But in this case, I actually need to hold down Command, because if I try to use the Control, Shift, and move it down here, nothing happens. But if I hold down Command and Shift and drag this button, you see that it's going to add this down here. Now, to point out, it does remove it from the shelf, so I can bring it back just by dragging it back up there and dragging it back down. So it removes it from the shelf, but it places it in this custom shelf in the Modeling Toolkit. So now I have the ability to do this merge to center if I need it, right? Now I can move it back. Now, if you're on a PC, you can use Control Shift, which will then bring things down. Now, another thing you can do with this is I can add new tools or new commands or new functions. Let's say I'm in the mesh menu and I wanted to use, the fill hole command. I can hold down Command Shift and middle mouse that, and it automatically appears over here. And then I can then take it Command Shift, middle mouse, and drag it down to the shelf, to this custom shelf in the Modeling Toolkit. I can also bring it up over here and move it around. So if I middle mouse and drag, I can move it around, and then I can, move it back down to the shelf if I want to. So these shelves are really handy for having tools that you're using pretty often. So this one particularly is fill hole. So if I had an area that I wanted to fill with geometry, I could use that command if I needed to use it. I'm going to dock this back over here, and you can still see it down here, although there's a lot of options at the bottom of the window, but you can scroll down. So you can use this little custom shelf area to create a little mini shelf like you have up here. Now you could still use this shelf. You can still use this shelf up here, but it's kind of nice to get this organized and use your modeling toolkit to get the right tools in there that you need. I hope these tips help while you're modeling.